Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. Absolutely excited to have another episode before you. This marks the 109th episode of our show. It is also my pleasure to welcome you to this new calendar year, 2024. We're looking to continue to bring you some amazing content all throughout the year. And of course, tonight's show is no exception. Tonight, I have a guest that has dedicated a career to working with special education students, amongst other things, and we're going to learn more about her on this evening. My guest is Ms. Amber Middleton. Amber Zuri Middleton is an educator, an entrepreneur, and now she is also a published author. Ms. Middleton has served students with disabilities for 21 years. Initially, upon completing her master's degree in sports leadership, she intended to be a sports psychologist for the NFL. But while working in a group home for juvenile girls at the end of the summer, she was so drawn to students helping with homework by creating human board games. And so she went back later on to pursue her second master's degree in special education. Ms. Middleton has taught in non-public school settings for the vast majority of her 15 years of teaching. Not long after she finished her EDS in educational leadership, she began her journey in administration. Ms. Middleton is very thankful for all the tools she gathered from the public, non-public, and charter school settings. She and her twin sister, Adia Middleton James, have developed a business, Twins and STEM LLC, that is still in its infancy stage, but is a good relief from some of the stresses of special education. As far as the vision they have, it is a welcome entrance after being in education over 20 years. Thus far, they have held STEM carnivals in both states of Maryland and Virginia, with the goal of having families participate in STEM-based challenges and activities. The book that we'll discuss tonight, He Said, She Said, God Said, was actually written in Amber's teaching career. She was encouraged to finally publish her writings by her twin sister and her husband, who are both published authors. She also has another project coming out this year in 2024. It's called the Invisible Detective Club of Wing 108, with students with exceptionalities as the primary focus. Ms. Middleton states that she is in awe of the students that she has had over the past 2 decades, and she hopes it translates into her work with them, and I'm sure it does. Ms. Middleton has several degrees. She received a BS from Virginia Union University many, many years ago. I think I remember when they graduated. A Master's of Education in Sports Leadership from Virginia Commonwealth University, a Master's in Special Education from Phoenix University, and she also has her EDS, Educational Specialist degree, and that is from George Washington University. And outside of all of this dedicated work that she does, she loves creating memories, whether it's supporting the ASL interpreting ministry at her church, going to Comic Con presentations, participating in scavenger hunts, or 5Ks in ridiculous costumes, or traveling. Educators sometimes find themselves having to do a little bit of everything. So at this time, I'd like to welcome to the Wright Experience my guest and cousin, Amber Middleton. Welcome to the Wright Experience.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the show. And
It's good to be here.
You have successfully done something that I have not done yet. You are now a published author. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm proud of you. Very, very, very good. So let's start off, Amber, if you will, Ms. Middleton, by talking about what you're currently doing. And then I've got a whole set of questions to ask you to kind of get our audience more familiar with you and get some thoughts and ideas from you. But talk to us about what you're currently doing.
Okay. So I'm currently a special education administrator at a non-public school here in Maryland. The students we serve, so I have middle school and high school students in the same setting. Yes. Like I said,
Wow.
there's students with various disabilities, and it's rewarding, but yet, obviously it's challenging, but it's definitely a rewarding experience.
And from multiple schools, I think I heard you say earlier.
Yes. So my organization has we have 3 campuses now. So I have one campus in Beltsville, Maryland, and the 2 others are in Anne Arundel County and as well as Howard County, Maryland.
Oh wow! So 3 different school districts then.
Yes. Well.
Oh wow.
Okay. So we actually support the vast majority of Maryland. We with the different setups that we have. So one school, 2 of the schools are community-based programs, and they service several counties. So with the 24 counties, we serve a great deal of them.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Keeping you busy, to say the least, for sure.
Definitely.
So we hear all the time about special needs students needing special things and so forth and so on. But as I was preparing for the show, I read an excerpt and I thought it was very interesting, and this question would be appropriate. Okay. So why is it important not to place special needs students in boxes?
Essentially because boxes place limits. And so if we take away the limits and we see the student for who they are, we see the individual instead of the disability, then we can accomplish more with them. Because if we place limits on them, he's deaf, he can't do this, or she's quadriplegic, she can't do this. But then we forget about the whole list of things that they can do. So the book, as well as what I'm doing with my sister with our STEM business, is just removing the boxes. Let's look at this differently. Let's approach this differently. And I'm just hoping that people recognize that people with exceptionalities, that's only one facet of who that person is. That's 1/10 of who that person is. It doesn't define them. And so we've got to stop, as a society, stop defining them by, he's special, he's this, she's no.
So not to limit their potential and box them in, and
yes,
they have the same opportunities for success. I think I hear you saying as what we call a regular ed student, although I'm not sure we really know what that is anymore.
That's true. That is true.
So needs are just different. But okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So as a Christian who is working with and in public schools, how do you manage that balance?
So it's a non-public school setting. So students that were in a public school setting and weren't successful there, we are the alternative to that. I don't hide it from my students nor my staff that I'm a Christian. In fact, they know every morning that when my door is closed before the students start arriving, my staff know that my family and I start off our day with prayer, and we're covering our students, the students, the staff, their family members, covering them in prayer because, well, one, for me, it's necessary to get through the day. It's just, I've got to center myself and recognize, okay, Amber, you're here for a purpose. And in order to do that, start your day like this. Okay. We do it every day.
Okay.
Every day.
Yeah, wonderful. No, and unapologetically too. That's good.
No.
Very good. So in preparing again for this show, I learned that you actually had this book that we're going to talk about in a few minutes in more detail, written some years ago and then didn't publish it initially. Talk to us a little bit about that hesitation. Why was that?
Okay. So I wrote this book maybe 15, 16 years ago.
Okay.
And so these students these are young adults, 29, 30-year-olds. And your mom is actually one of the ones who encouraged me to go ahead and get that published, girl. And I was like, okay. But I didn't have the courage. in my mind, no one's going to want to hear a bunch of poems from an educator. No one. I was just like, no, it's not necessary. My voice isn't necessary to put this out there. Nobody wants to hear it. So fast forward to last year, I believe. My sister, she published her book, and her husband also published a book too. So so 3 authors in the family now. But it was like, well, Amber, you already wrote a book. Why haven't you published that one? And I was like, still, nobody wants to hear that. No, like, because it's written in a sing-songy tone, but that was the voices of the students at the time. They were very sing-songy when they spoke to me, Miss Amber, Miss Amber. Like, so when you read it, it has it's a book of poems, but it has that sing-songy tone to it. And so I relented. I said, okay, I'm gonna try, and so I'm convinced that God was definitely in the mix of this, because I received an email from a publishing company, and I don't know if it was the Big Brother is watching, and so just talking about it, and the phone overheard it. But I started seeing all these different things from different publishing companies, and so I responded to this one email, and it was like, please submit your documentation, submit your for review, and we'll see what we can do in this process. So I stepped out there. I said, okay. I was just nervous, but in the long run, it's something that I probably should have already done. And so it's just about, I can't tell others to, hey, have confidence and do this, and then not do it myself. So I was being hypocritical.
So part of that's being an example for others.
Yes.
And so, and talk a little bit about the context of it. I want to hear you tell the story. It is, there are poems, there are excerpts and so forth, but from the perspective of children. So talk to us a little bit about that. How did you come up with that conceptually and so forth?
So it's actually a really funny story. Well, I don't know how funny it is, but there was we had one student, and he was in the student support room. So mind you, remember 20 years ago, things weren't as copacetic as they should be. So it was one of those padded rooms, and he was in there because he was having fits. So I can't even remember what his original reason for being in there, but he was a streaker, so he would take his clothes off and all kinds of things. So he was in this room, and I was outside of the room talking to the therapist, and was like, well, okay, what can we do to support him? Because like all his behaviors were just extreme. I said, we've got to do something different because nothing is working. And the therapist was like, did you read his IEP? And it was an older gentleman. So I kind of had an attitude, was like, yeah, I read his IEP. What do you mean? And he was like, well, what does it say? And the little boy yelled from the room, well, what did God say? You're not God. And so it made me sit back and think. I laughed, definitely, but it made me sit back and think, what does God say about disabilities? And so we're all, as children of God, he sees all our flaws. He sees, like, he loves us unconditionally, no matter what is going on. So what's different from quote unquote normal, those of us that are quote unquote normal versus those that have exceptionalities? Nothing. In God's sight, nothing. So
all right. And that sprung into,
yes, he said, she said.
How about that? And we get that all the time. But what a very caretaking way of displaying that. I think that's wonderful. So you talked a little bit about, or we talked a little bit about you and your sister in particular doing a STEM initiative and getting some work out there to address STEM. So why the focus on STEM now, and what are your ultimate expectations with that new organization that you all have created?
So again, my sister, I say it all the time, like I'm in constant awe and appreciation of my sister, because she brings stuff out of me that I may not necessarily do on my own. She brings it out. And so I do a lot of journaling and so forth and all these things. And she's constantly coming up with these ideas. Well, hey, let's do this. And I shut her down because oftentimes they are a little out of my comfort zone. And so we were talking about how she interacts with her students in her classes and things that she was doing to get them engaged. And I said, well, students with disabilities can do that too. We would just have to modify it. So we started doing STEM challenges ourselves. We would record ourselves doing different STEM challenges, and and so then I would modify them. I would think about particular students that I had worked with, and I would modify. Okay, oh, but no, this student needs this. This would need this, and so we've had the opportunity to do STEM carnivals, and it's something that isn't really heard of. Like, even though a regular size carnival is actually STEM too. But we would go around, we've done them in Virginia and here in Maryland, whereas we set up stations in the Armory, we've done it in parking lots, where we set up stations with different STEM activities and invite families out. And of course, the parents, some parents are initially intimidated because like, oh, I don't know what that is. But then they get up there and sometimes they're taking over. So it's just about just getting parents to embrace, hey, this is something that I can engage in with my child at home. Oh, we can make bubbles. Oh, we can make a volcano out of a pumpkin, like just different things like that. So getting them excited again, so that if you are helping with homework, if you are again supporting in some way, that you feel empowered to do so. We eventually do want to have an after school program, as well as we're considering doing subscription boxes and stuff. So there are things that we're still playing around with, seeing how, because we live in 2 different states and neither plans on moving. As of right now, neither plans on moving. So it's like just working out the logistics of how we can do these things.
Okay. And certainly that work is ongoing, and anytime we can get whole families engaged in student learning,
yes,
particularly in 2024 and beyond, that's an amazing thing. So you all will be commended for that work, and I'm going to be keeping tabs on to see how that's progressing. But I think that's a wonderful thing for sure. So the work of an author, I'm sure, is very daunting. I don't know, because I haven't written a book.
And you will.
but hopefully in time I will. But what advice would you give to those of us that are out there, since you said I will, to inspire us to consider writing a book, consider putting our thoughts to paper? What advice would you give?
Honestly, I mean, just do it. Just really. My daddy says that everybody has a story in them, and so if I can't tell your story, so you would have to tell your own. And so I'm just encouraging everybody. Like, this one is a book of poems, but my next I intend on it being a children's series. It still focuses on students with disabilities, but I just put pen to paper, and I'm just thinking of different things that have occurred over the last 21 years. Like, I can't do a tell-all and say, well, this happened, and not doing it that way, but just, again, highlighting the awesomeness of the population that I serve in what I hope people receive as a welcoming and amusing manner, but saying, oh, wow, that is amazing. Oh, and so just having those light bulb moments, I think that everybody should take advantage of it. Like I said, my sister and her husband both wrote books. All 3 of our books are completely different. We'll reach different audiences, but I think it's our purpose to do so.
And that's probably, though, the joy of authoring, is the fact that you can touch different subjects and provide a different audience. So since you mentioned the upcoming book, that's going to be released this year, is that right?
That's the goal.
So talk to us about that a little bit. It's called, let me get it right, I'll go back over my notes, The Invisible Detective Club of Wing 108. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about that one as well.
So the main character in that story's name is Warren. and he has a little journal, and he often, so they're in an inclusive setting, in a particular school that, and they're in, the school is actually in North Carolina, in my mind. But
Okay.
um but he is always, he always has his notebook, and all people see is his bright red glasses and his little hat, and they always see him writing, but they had no idea that he is taking note of everything that's going on around him. So he and the others in his class, uh, they, so his students in wheelchairs, his students who English isn't their first language, and students who require interpreters. They're all in this classroom setting, and when they're out in the comprehensive setting, I they're taking notice of things that the general student isn't necessarily paying attention to, again, it's just highlighting that yes, there is an exceptionality, but it doesn't mean that I'm incapable of doing something awesome, something fantastic.
No matter what your disability is
Right.
or what your needs are. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Wonderful. So speaking of special education,
Hmm.
talk to us a little bit about what you believe the future is in special education, because it's not getting easier. That's the
It's
one
definitely
thing that
not.
we know. So talk to us about the future of it, and maybe a little bit about the support that you believe special educators need moving forward.
So, uh, this is where I am. I'm not saying I'm struggling in this, but this is something that is constantly on my mind, because um, since the pandemic, I've seen an increase in students being diagnosed as a student with a disability. Whether it's primarily you're seeing students with emotional disabilities. I'm seeing more of that now, but there are students with learning disabilities and so forth, and while I'm appreciative of my training in school, it's just got to be more. Like, it has to be more. I don't think you can ever fully be prepared for working in especially in the non-public setting. I don't think you can fully be prepared for it, because you never know. You don't know what challenges you'll face.
Right.
We had the students come with, we have students that have so much trauma, and so I think, for me, I think that's the important piece right there. Us being trained to deal with trauma, because how am I teaching you, and you've got this and this going on, and I've never had to deal with any of that, so I don't know how to respond to you. I don't know what your triggers are. So just the social emotional learning piece is to me is huge.
Sure.
Learning how to operate and navigate within all of that mess, because like it's a lot, and then you take it on yourself sometimes, and then it filters over into your own personal life. So we have to be able to have outlets and so forth. But I think just having that training and that support, and saying that it's not going to always be a rosy day, but how can I help you get past? How can I help you get past some of these obstacles? What can I do? I think the SEL training is going to be huge.
Mhm.
And honestly, I feel like for general and special ed, um, that the trauma doesn't know disability. So
Yeah, and there certainly are needs in both spectrums for
right.
sure, and they're ever increasing. I said to someone who talked about, asked me a direct question, "What are you going to do about learning loss?" I said, "Well, children learn during the pandemic. Now they
They
learn.
did.
It's just that they learn some things that we probably wish they had not been taught by being in the house all day and
Mhm.
things of that nature. So we're having to unpack some of that.
Yeah.
Is probably about the kindest way I can say that. But that work is ever changing, and you're right. All the work and all of the support that we can get when it comes to students with who have social emotional learning needs. We certainly need all hands on deck with
Mhm.
that. we do need to pray, as you taught us earlier, but we also have some other work that we have to do in terms of supporting those environments in which we need social emotional learning help. So appreciate you for that. So let's talk a little bit about how we get a copy of these wonderful books. How do we, now that you've got my audience intrigued, how do we get a copy or retain a copy of your book?
Okay, so I was fortunate to publish it through Fulton Publishing, but it can be purchased at Amazon and or Barnes and Noble on both websites.
So let's do the full title of your first book, because there you go. There you go.
Oops.
All right. Center it a little bit so right, because there's more than one with that initial title. There's a subtitle. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Oh, okay. The subtitle is A Look at Disabilities and Challenges Through a Christian Child's Perspective.
There you go. There you go. So that's what makes it unique, along with your name.
Yes.
So I certainly do appreciate that. Is there anything that I missed? Any other questions that, or any other things that you'd like to share with the audience that I might have left out?
The only other thing I would like to share is that, because I also think about this a lot, is that we're a family of educators. We're a family of servant leaders. I was thinking about both on mom and dad's sides. We either dad has lineage of ministers, and on mom's side, on both, the Austin and the Jones side, it's teachers. It's so like this. I feel like this is something we were supposed to do.
Good. Well, you're walking in that calling and doing an exceptional job, and we're certainly very proud of you. If you'll hold on, we'll come back and close out the show.
Okay.
As we continue to develop and go into now, amazingly, which will be our third year of producing the Wright Experience, I'm excited about the future of the show. We're going to continue to try to bring you the very best guests. And as you see, we are expanding our portfolio. We're finding authors. We're finding entrepreneurs. Every once in a while, we'll get fortunate and find both in the same package. But the goal of this show has always been to find the very best inspirational people that I can find for you. So as we continue to do that, and of guests that we can interview and get on the show, by all means, please reach out and let me know that, so that we can continue to grow as a podcast, as we've been doing since about February of 2021. So very shortly, we'll be celebrating that third anniversary. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to let everyone know that this month is also January is School Board Member Appreciation Month. So those of us in education know that school board members have a very daunting task, as they are pretty much the bridge gap, if you will, between school districts and the community. And so we ask that you continue to support board members as they are doing what is best for children and those that serve them every day. And if you see a board member or know of a board member and the work that they do, please take the opportunity to wish them a happy School Board Member Appreciation Month, as we do each year in the month of January. And Ms. Middleton, I'm absolutely thrilled that you took the opportunity to come on the show. I am looking forward to finishing reading the first book, and then when the second one gets on, we'll get you back on the show to talk a little bit more in detail about that. We're certainly proud of the work that you have been doing all of these years and continue to do to serve children and students and families in your region of the United States. And we're looking forward to the expansion of the business and so forth and so on. This show is open. It's a platform here for you. If I wait too long and don't get back with you and you're ready to come back on, just let me know, and we'll make space and room for you. But thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
To the Wright Experience audience, thank you and good evening.